This is Tony Chimmel, and I'd like to introduce the hosts of the Game Marks podcast, George Feis and Johnny Clash.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast, where each and every week we do a deep dive into the good, the bad, and the awesome of all things wrestling video games. My name is George Feis.
And I'm the man they call Johnny Clash, and today we are playing King of Colosseum Green. Will it get a rating of Play It Forever? Woo! Or Future Endeavor? We also discuss our dream video game Suicide Squad, AEW's new Rise to the Top, and WWE 2K24 is teasing some stuff.
Oh man, 'tis the season. And as always, guys, please make sure to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you choose to listen to your podcast. And make sure to follow along on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod. And don't forget, you can get early and ad-free episodes, access to show notes, and coming soon, a whole lot more when you join our Patreon, patreon.com/GameMarksPod. Johnny Clash, how are we doing, sir?
How are you doing? I passed the sickness on to you virtually, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't want you to have to go through the whole having COVID alone, so I, in true podcast solidarity, went and got it for myself. We're on the tail end of things, thankfully. I think I pretty much experienced it the same way that you did, where it was just like a lot of congestion, a lot of general
still there
discomfort and all that stuff. But we're here. We're going to get through it. We are playing a game. I'm very excited.
Where'd you go? What'd you do? Did you have fun?
So we took a little trip over to Hogwarts, little Universal trip. Missed the major pod trip by maybe like a week. But yeah, good time. Sent John some pictures of some fun Harry Potter stuff. Got to have butterbeer for the first time, which was
so good. Did you do frozen or regular?
I was advised to get the regular for my first experience, and then other times to try the other ones. But I got to tell you, so like sweet. I could not have another one, but
sweet, and they're like $15 or whatever they are.
Yeah, that's another aspect of it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just an aspect of all like amusement parks, like Disney, Universal, like everything, Six Flags, you name it. Like all of the food and beverage and like any like little like knickknacks and swag that you can get, it's all so expensive, but
yeah, part
of the experience. But overall, really cool. Got to ride the Fast and the Furious ride. Which
they were just building that when I went, so I missed that.
If you are a fan of the franchise, it's fun, but in terms of the like a thrilling ride, it's not. But it's like good lame, if that makes sense. Like it's like such like a cheesy ride that it's great. I loved it. I had such a good time on it, but it's not like a coaster or anything.
Is the Jimmy Fallon ride still there?
Yes, it is.
That was a fun one. That
yes,
and
it
Transformers,
is.
I think we like the best. Obviously the classics like The Mummy and all that. Those are so good.
Yeah, Mummy is good.
Everyone hates Men in Black because it's so lame and old, but I love it.
It's one of those things like The Mummy, Men in Black. Those are like the classics. Like there's like you walk in and you just see Brendan Fraser, like just like greeting you. Like as you're getting on the coast, and then at the end he's there. Like it's classic.
Now I heard The Simpsons is leaving, and they're putting Pokemon in there.
Is that so? This was my struggle, and I don't know if I'm the only person that has this. I constantly forget that there's Universal California, and a lot of the things that they've been doing, like Nintendo World, is only Universal California. Yeah. And I forget that there's like Universal California. So I was just like, so where's Nintendo? And they're just like, that's not here. That's in California. I was like, oh, I forgot that there's one in California. I didn't know that. But
I'll say this. I did Disney in California once. I like the Florida one, but way better.
So from what I've
California's,
heard,
too compact.
they've all got like their own, like there's like the one big attraction. Like it's like all the same general things that you would expect. Like, so you get the full experience, but like Disneyland, in like France and, there's Universal in Japan, or there's Disney in Japan, or there's both.
Disney Japan.
And then there's Disney and Universal in California. Like there's the staples that make you feel like you're still going through the same experience, but then there's those like one-off attractions that are just to those locations. And I feel like that's like the things. Like Universal in California, I'm sure is great. But the big thing that's there that sets it apart now is Nintendo, from what I'm told. I haven't been,
Galaxy's
so I don't
Edge.
know. It's like Galaxy's Edge.
Wait, so I forgot what I was going to ask. So was the Simpsons stuff like still there? Like, did you?
Yeah, it was still all there. Like all the Duff beer and
one of the greatest roller coasters, even though it's like all virtual.
yeah, it is. There are some roller coasters. So I'm not like a huge roller coaster guy, but I like a roller coaster. There are some that just hurt. That's one of them that just hurts.
So, did you do the Rock and Roller Coaster?
Rock and Roller Coaster is Disney. The Aerosmith one?
No. Is it the one at Universal where you pick the song? So you didn't.
I thought Rock and Roller Coaster was the Aerosmith one at Disney, at Hollywood Studios.
There's one at Universal. Rip Ride Rocket.
Oh, no, we did not do that because I did not know that was a thing. But we did Velocicoaster, which was really cool.
Okay.
And Hagrid's roller coaster, which was really, really cool.
When I couldn't do all that, and we didn't even touch Island of Adventure because we got one full day of Universal.
Oh, the last time I was at Universal, I think I did the Hogwarts experience, and that was it.
Yeah, that's all.
Like that was the only thing I did. And we just walked through the park because we didn't have time to like do stuff. Because it was like we're passing through to do because we were there for something, and just that was it. Got to walk through, do one ride. I was like, okay, cool, good to see Universal. Got to look around, and that was it. We left.
Well, that was this week's version of Major World, and I'm glad you had a good time. Let's get into some follow-up from last week. We played Sergeant Slaughter's Mat Wars, one of the most interesting, weirdest, unique games we've ever played. I think both of our future endeavors are going to stick. And we couldn't... Every week we pull content from our episodes, from our playthroughs. This one we just could get the bare minimum because there's just not much to the game. There's just not much there.
The visuals were the standout part of it, but it's hard to make content when it's just like, oh, look at the really cool pixel art of like the world, like the map view or the city view, which is like, that's like what, 10 seconds that you could talk about that
compilation.
Yeah. But that really, I think, was the part that tied it all together and kind of made it more interesting to me, was that the visuals were so stunning, and to see that style of artwork and how they were able to get like reflections and like the neon light feel and stuff just through like pixel art was really neat. But
we'll leave it where it is and maybe talk about it in the future. But for now, it's good in the graveyard. Let's talk about AEW's Rise to the Top. I was sitting there. It was like 11 p.m. and it said AEW Rise to the Top is now available in the App Store. And it pre-downloaded on my phone. I was like, all right, here we go. Let's check this out.
All right.
I have no idea what I was doing for about a half hour. No clue at all. It was just mindless tapping. It was like, gain money and click the dollar sign. I'm just clicking the dollar sign and I'm gaining money. I'm like, this is all I have to do is just tap this. The story behind everything is pretty cool. Like Hangman Page gets abducted and stuff. Like there's cutscenes and they're very well animated. It's a cool little thing. Maybe in the future someone will just put those cutscenes on YouTube so you could just watch them. You gain your roster as you go. I mean, it's cool to see like Pat Buck's in there. My friends are in there.
Maybe we should be the ones to put that little cutscene video together.
I'm not going to do that. But I just don't see myself sitting there playing this because after about a half hour and I'm like, nothing's really happening. I just went back to Marvel Snap and that was it.
I have it downloaded. I haven't jumped in yet. So it's on the list of things to play. But from what we've seen from AEW mobile releases in the past, would you say that you are overwhelmed, underwhelmed, whelmed? Where does this rank for you in the list of other mobile releases that AEW has done?
I would play GM over this.
Okay.
Because at least there's like an end goal, like you get something out of it. You're working to get new wrestlers, which in this you are too. It's just a time killer. I expect there to be a million microtransactions. Whatever they come out with, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna play. It's just lately they just haven't been sticking.
Yeah, I have low expectations, but I am waiting to be pleasantly surprised. The visual style we have mentioned, it kind of looks like the Family Guy, Simpsons mobile games that have come out in the last couple of years, that cartoony outline style, which, hey, you know what? To see, like you said, to see people that we know, friends of the show, friends in real life that, that are in this game, it's cool.
Really sad. Everyone's demeanor is just sad in their character,
which I feel like not even necessarily limited to this game. How come in so many wrestling games there, like, very rarely are people smiling? Is it just like you're not like, do they only use people's angry promo pics?
Because you need your face, not your Al Snow face.
Oh man, is that like wrestler photo shoot?
No, I've
like headshot code.
I've smiled all the time. But this game, once again, was put out by Aubrey Edwards with her help. Tomorrow, I ship my 8th game, second with AEW. This Wednesday, AEW Rise to the Top will be available worldwide. This was a super fun project to work on. Our devs, Eastside Games and Game Masons, were phenomenal. There's a lot of love in this, and I hope you enjoy it. I just think there's a market for these types of games.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's just not for people who want to play a wrestling game.
Well, that's kind of what we talked about with a lot of the wrestling card games and the manager games, where it's just like, hey, these kinds of games aren't for everybody. These types of games may not have even been game styles that we would tend to lean towards, but we have been surprised in the past. There are several card games that we've played that we've loved, and we were very surprised by how much we like them. Wrestling and tabletop is not necessarily something that I think a lot of people have in the forefront of their mind when they think of a wrestling game. But like I said, we've played a couple and they've been very, very good to us in the sense of like, they're entertaining, they're clever, they kind of break the mold of what you would expect a wrestling tabletop game to be. So maybe, like you said, AEW Rise to the Top is kind of cornering a market for people who are into those games. And who knows, maybe as time goes on, it'll grow on us.
I guess we'll see. I don't know. Let's get into some bigger stuff here. 2K24. Now, if you're listening to this on Monday, I believe today is when they're going to make some announcements. So
yes,
sorry if you're looking for that. It's probably not going to be till next week, or maybe we'll hop on here and do a quick little recap this week and get it going. But so far, the cover rumors, there's been a lot. There's been Brock, there's been Cody, a Hogan 40th anniversary thing. But on their actual social media, so far, they've posted a couple teaser images. They posted a referee shirt with sleeves cut off with 2K24. They've posted Rhea Ripley with 2K24 on the TV in the background. They've posted a 2K24 coffin. Looks AI generated. Bianca Belair with 2K24 earrings that are heavily photoshopped. Becky Lynch with 2K24 shining in her glasses. Not reflecting because they're going the right way, which is weird.
The referee shirt, they tagged Stone Cold.
Right. Do you think we're getting special guest referee back in the game?
That could be cool. Or, I'm trying to think, is it that or is it a Mania like showcase?
That's someone else was saying, like 4 years of WrestleMania showcase. Because there's also an NWO shirt. There's Drew McIntyre's like chainmail, whatever sword and thing. Well, and
John Cena posted the NWO shirt.
Oh, wait, I'm just noticing they put a pirate flag next to it.
So I'm wondering if maybe it is something like that,
match.
and it's the Bray Wyatt match, and they're just posting big. So wait, let's try to break this down. So the photos have been Stone Cold ref shirt, John Cena NWO shirt, Rhea Ripley, who won the title from Charlotte at Mania during the Thunderdome.
Bianca and Becky, who also had a great match.
A Mania match. So
Undertaker.
Taker, who's Mr. WrestleMania.
Drew McIntyre, who main evented the COVID Mania, right?
Yes.
And a ladder. But we can't get TLC, so...
Well, you
could only get the Dudleys at this point. I think wherever they're headed, though, it looks really cool, and I'm very excited.
So then, I said Taker's Mr. WrestleMania, but obviously you're going to have Shawn Michaels in there in some way.
Oh, it's actually trending right now. Let's click the trend. Hoping we get a trailer like this.
Yeah,
would be cool to get a trailer.
That's very interesting. Or I feel like what they're going to do is how, you remember when Seth was on the cover and they had Seth, like the teaser was like Seth walking through that, like the
fire and
the fire, and there's like the rundown building and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like it'll be something like that where they'll like post a teaser and like, maybe it'll be like, you know, all Mania highlights. And I mean, that's very interesting that it could all be WrestleMania themed.
I'm in for that. That would be cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That changes it up because then it's not, wow, a WrestleMania showcase instead of an individual, but who's the cover? That's
maybe it's just like a big
multiple
WrestleMania poster.
Yeah. Maybe it's just like an actual wrestling poster, but it's like all, you know, headliners of WrestleMania throughout the years.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Like more modern WrestleManias too, because 2K14 I think gave us the older ones. So should be cool either way. We'll come back.
It's very, very, very interesting.
Maybe do a quick little recap this week and get it going.
That's cool. I'm all about it.
But all right, are you ready here to dive into this week's game, King of Colosseum Green?
Let's do it. Guys, if you want your beard to be soft and smell great, then you need Mad Cat Beard Care. Their products are all natural and made to order with vitamins and natural oils to moisturize your skin and to help make your beard healthy and strong.
Our exclusive scent, Play It Forever, is a blood orange, black clove, and vanilla scented beard balm or beard oil that can make your beard have a rich but not overpowering scent. Plus, a portion from their sales go towards finding care for stray cats, covering their medical bills and finding them safe places and forever homes.
Use code GameMarks to save yourself 15% when you place an order over at madcatbeardcare.com. That's 15% off with code GameMarks. And remember, the Mad Cat makes a happy beard. All right, the deep dive is brought to you by our friends over at Mad Cat Beard Care. Use code GameMarks to save yourself 15% when you visit madcatbeardcare.com. Have your beard looking fresh and smelling good. King of Colosseum. King of Colosseum. Released March 6th, 2003. And this is King of Colosseum Green. King of Colosseum Red was released December 19th of 2002. Both games are for the PlayStation 2, published by Spike, developed by Spike, and other games in the wrestling world in 2003.
My favorite year for wrestling games.
Man, this is a stacked roster here. You've got WWE Crush Hour, Raw 2, WrestleMania 19, SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, Mobile Madness Hardcore, Mobile Madness Cage, All-Star Pro Wrestling 3, and Backyard Pro Wrestling. Don't try this at home. A lot.
What a year.
There's a lot. There's a whole mess of wrestling games happening here.
And then here comes King of Colosseum. Now, in December, Red came out, and there was a ton of wrestlers on here. I think 96 wrestlers, which is pretty good. The New Japan and all that. Now, this game expanded it even further and put Noah and 01 on the disc with 58 wrestlers. We just played this game this week. We played it right before we came on. It's a who's who. So if you combine both of these discs, which we're going to get into the process on how you do that a little bit, you get like the perfect Japanese wrestling game.
It is, it's massive. It is an insane, like, to think of just the one roster alone, that's a stacked game. Like, it's perfect, like no notes. You've got a great diverse roster of, wrestlers from a ton of different promotions, guys from here in the States. You're covering all bases. But then when you think that you can combine that with the roster in Red, it's
154 characters after that.
It's looking a lot like Fire Pro roster.
Yeah, but the actual licenses of the people in the game, which is incredible.
It's the real people.
And you compare this to, like, when we were playing, I was like, what would you compare this to? A SmackDown game, maybe a GameCube game? It's kind of everything rolled into one. The graphics are phenomenal. The presentation is amazing. There's a little bit to be desired with like the crowd and the visual effects of like the announcers and all that. But I think for this case, you could look past it. It's just a very clean game. It's a little clunky in the sense that the way you play it is very different from the games we're used to. There's a lot more thought that goes into every move you make, and it could get a little confusing. It reminds me of like the old era of like Attitude and Warzone where you have to remember the combinations.
Yeah, it can be unforgiving control-wise, but like you said, presentation, it is very... I feel like we say this a lot for a lot of these games in like the early 2000s where like there are some aspects of it where you're just like, wow, this is great. Like this, barely shows its age. And then there's other aspects where you're like, there it is. That's where it starts to show that it's a game from the early 2000s. But for a lot of the games of this generation, when it hits and it like knocks it out of the park. Like, you can hear it if you watch the playthrough available on our YouTube channel. The stages, both in Red and Green, and just overall of like a lot of the Japanese wrestling games from the early 2000s, they nail that entrance ramp. The stage always looks spectacular. The presentation, like leading into the matches, is always so spot on. But like John said, certain aspects of it date it. The music, number one for me. Oh, yeah. It's just very like early 2000s, like generic MIDI tracks, which is just like, it is what it is. Sometimes people are using licensed music and things like that, and you can't put it in the game, but it is very easy to overlook that to just focus on the positives in the sense of every other aspect of presentation.
Yeah, I mean, you got your ass kicked. Let's be real here when you played.
Oh, but yeah.
I think the takeaway was like, this game is really cool. It wasn't like, oh, this game is too hard, I hated it. It was the whole time we were like, oh, look at this move, look at this, look how Samoa Joe looks.
And I'm pretty sure that when we play Red, I also got my ass kicked. Like, I'm pretty sure that you kicked my ass in that one.
Maybe. I don't know. Well, we can go check back. But it's pretty cool. There's a lot of game modes in here too. You have trial mode, which is a single player story. It's very RPG-esque, which we see in a lot of these games from this era, especially like the Fire Pros and all that. This is where you pretty much unlock everything in the game. But we only played, I think we got 1 or 2 games in, and we were able to unlock the legend Jumbo Tsuruta, who's the only unlockable legend in the game. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
All the scenarios from King of Colosseum Red can also be combined and played on this disc. So basically, you're making 2 games into one by buying 2 games. Now, you think about that, and you're like, why did I have to buy 2 games to do this? I believe there was some licensing issues with New Japan not wanting to be with Noah, 01 and all that. But
well, there's also got to be some kind of aspect of like the space available on the disc. Like,
well, you're doing it anyway.
No.
It's all just memory.
Oh, yeah, but I was saying, like, the amount of information on the one disc of the 58 wrestlers plus, like, the engine of the game. Like, maybe you couldn't get all 154, whatever it was, wrestlers on the one disc. I'm sure also the licensing thing, but maybe you couldn't get everything on one disc.
Well, pretty much. We'll get into it now. If you have the save data from Red on your memory card, which I guess get a bigger memory card because I used to get the cheap ones and run out like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And once you have that, you just load it up. And there is a big process on how to actually load it up. The instructions are online. There's no point in reading them right now because it's just going to take way too much time and a lot of do this, then do this, and we don't need to read all that. But pretty much you just need the save data and you're good. And it's right there on the screen to just hit combine, and there it is. You have a brand new game. I think you might have to load it up every time, which kind of sucks. But hey, if you want to play the game, and
I'll say small price to pay for
a
stacked roster.
Yeah, so you also have a one-night match, which we've seen many times from Spike Games, which is an exhibition mode, allowing you to play single, handicap, or tag. Then there's your title matches, where you have the GHC Heavyweight Tag Team, Junior Heavyweight, the NMA World Heavyweight, International Tag Team, and Junior Heavyweight Championships. The series mode, which is just a tournament or a league. And, if you're a Japanese wrestling fan, you're probably going to go for a league. Battle Royale, which is your standard 4-man elimination match where the last man standing wins. And then your 5-on-5, which we've grown accustomed to doing the past few weeks, where the first team of 5 to eliminate their opponents win, but they're all singles matches. So it is a little bit lengthy. And of course,
which is kind of what was it? Virtual Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, same thing. Now, everybody's favorite, edit mode, where you create extra wrestlers or edit pre-existing one. There are 66 exclusive characters that you can create in here. So that's adding even more to the already stacked double roster.
I'm legitimately shocked, impressed, just the amount of selectable characters. It's one thing to have it in a Fire Pro game because you've kind of come to expect that in that series, but to have it be where it's this many wrestlers with a bunch of creatable wrestlers and have it all be where it's their actual likeness is just, it's very cool to see.
It's really cool, and they hit on everyone. I mean,
something for everybody.
Just like Spike usually does. You have the UFC fighters or UFO, but it's the real wrestlers. You're not used to this in Fire Pro until you get to Fire Pro World. They went all out here. I think the many attempts we've seen from Spike or Human beforehand where they attempted the 3D style, they finally hit it here.
Yeah.
I think when we played Red, we weren't aware that there were two, and we got a little confused, and then we're like, oh, wait.
I think we thought it was just two different covers.
Yeah.
And then we were just like, wait a second, hold on.
Yeah, we were like, there's more to this. But it's pretty cool. But it does share some traits with the old Fire Pro games, but it doesn't have the same grapple engine, and it does kind of resemble King Soul a bit, the Oja no Tamashi. Yeah. So that was kind of a step up to this one. And as you can see in that game and its predecessors, the Powerball system returns, where each wrestler has 1 to 4 Powerballs. These are used to perform their signatures, their finishers, and their powerful moves. And they're very confusing.
So I believe I believe it's, I had read it online somewhere. I meant to put it in the notes. I couldn't find it right now. It was something like the amount of finishers that your character has or signature moves that your wrestler has and the power that it does reflects how many power balls you get. Yeah. Which I guess makes sense because there are some people that only had 2. There are some people that only had 3. And I think there's a thing that you can set in the settings, like how you can have handicap in VPW, and then in
SmackDown games.
In SmackDown games, you can set how many, bump them up. But we talked about a stacked roster, John. How are we tackling this week? So are we reading it? Are we having Google read it?
Oh, we're reading it, but let's take a quick break so I could get some nose stuff out before we tackle this, and we'll come back. We'll do this, and we'll talk about the art style.
Alrighty. All right, I will kick us off here for the roster. We're starting off with Pro Wrestling Noah. you've got Mitsuharu Misawa, Akira Tao, Yoshinari Ogawa, Takashi Rikio, Takeshi Morishima, Taemon Honda, Jun Izumida, Izu Misawa Inoue, Takuma Sanao, Daisuke Ikeda, Takashi Sugiura, Mohamed Yon, Kishin Kawabata, Naomishi Marufuji, Kataro Suzuki, Rusha Kimura, Haruka Eigen, Mitsuo wow, I'm struggling. Momoda. You make it so hard when you do that. Masahi Aoyagi, Vader, Scorpio, Richard Slinger, Michael Modest, Donovan Morgan, and then
I'll take the next few.
Okay.
Give you a break. Burning, you have Kenta Kobashi, Kentaro Shiga, Tsuyoshi Kikuchi, Kenta. Then for Sternness, you have Jun Akiyama, Akitoshi Saito, Yoshinabu Kanamura, Makoto Hashi. No Fear is Tako Amori, Satoru Osako, and I'll finish off with 0-1, and then you can take the rest. Shinya Hashimoto, Tatsuhiro Takawa, Naohiro Hashikawa, Kahi Sato, Ryoji Sai. These are tough.
This is a tough week.
Fugo, Yumiji, Yoshihiro Sasaki, Shinsuke Z Hamagasa, Fuyuki Takahashi, Tom Howard, that's a good one, The Predator, Steve Corino, C.W. Anderson, and Samoa.
For Fire Emblem, you've got Shinjiro Otani, Masato Tanaka, oh my god, Kurogawa Gyuta, that's one really long name. For UFO, you have Neo Ogawa, Brazilian Top Team. That's what? You have the entirety of Brazilian Top Team?
Maybe they're all character slots.
Oh. You have Antonio Noguera, Mario Sperry. For Freelance, you have Yoshihiro Takayama, Kazuyuki Fujita, and your legend is Jumbo Saruda.
All right, great roster. You even have Mike Modest from Beyond the Mat.
Mike Modest.
He was in this game. He was in, what'd I say? Fire Pro Returns, and I think King of Colosseum.
Yes.
King of Colosseum 2?
You said he was in 3 total, right?
Yeah, 3 total. But then you get to the cover artwork here. It's basically identical to Red, except it's flipped. Everyone's going left to right rather than right to left. It's green, hence the name Green. It's got the nice King of Colosseum logo, and that's really it. It's got all the characters on the front. Of course, Vader stands out more than anyone else. Always an interesting choice for this cover. Not a wrestling ring or rope in sight.
And it's all the 3D renders of the in-game sprites, which is also an interesting choice. Not something that we see a lot of. Usually they have...
Is this the worst part of the game?
The cover?
Yeah.
I don't think it's the strongest wrestling cover, but
No.
I would suppose having red and green lined up next to each other would make a cool visual.
Let's see, actually. I want to look that up. I know there's a bunch on eBay.
But in terms of... I think the back cover is stronger than the front because of how everything's laid out.
It does look like a giant wrestling poster when you put them next to each other. It's still very weird.
And I would imagine that maybe that's kind of the thought process, is that it's supposed to, you're able to play both. You're able to combine the rosters. And that, maybe if you were to display them or they made a poster or something like that, that it would be like a cool presentation. But it looks, unless you know what the King of Colosseum logo is, it is very just generic wrestling game looking. Until you really start to examine the characters on it. Like, you see Vader, you see Misawa, you go through and you know everyone.
Yeah. It's all right. The back cover is kind of the same. It's got everybody lined up top. And then your
I think it's
screenshots-
stronger.
Yeah, the screenshots are below, and the biggest feature that you could combine with red. Now, obviously, we weren't paying attention at the time. We also probably had no idea this game came out in 2003. I wonder if a selling point of red was saying that green's coming out in the future and you could combine it, or if they didn't even mention that, or if it was like, oh, 2 games are being developed, you can combine them, or 1 game's being developed, it's going to have 196, and then they sprung it like, oh, just kidding, it's 2 different discs.
Yeah, I wonder what the marketing process was behind.
Yeah.
There's got to be commercials for stuff like this too, right?
There's got to be someone out there that has like memory of this, and we should.
Oh yeah,
so pretty cool. Of course, it's got the memory card slots and all that, and the actual disc itself is just the monochrome King of Colosseum logo, but it's in green, so really cool.
I will say this though, I am kind of looking forward to what comes after, because there is still one more game in the series. There is King of Colosseum 2.
I just took a peek into the roster of who's added to that, and I'll just say D'Lo Brown's in it, and I'm very excited. But let's talk about, we briefly touched on the graphics here. Let's talk about what it actually looks like at ringside. I think the ring, the wrestlers, the detail of the ring mats, the turnbuckle pads, everything is so nice. The whole outside background leaves a bit to be desired.
And I think it's because there's so much of a spotlight on the crowd. I think that we've seen games in the past that have, maybe the not the most detailed of sprite images for the crowd, but because they're kind of faded with a dark light, not as much of a house light on them, that it's a little bit more forgiving. But because they are lit more or less in the same light that the ring is in, it kind of draws attention to them more, which, I mean, I've watched a decent amount of Japanese wrestling. That's almost never the case. Like, usually the crowd's not lit at all.
Sometimes just the front, yeah.
Yeah, or maybe it's just like the front, which I guess you could make the argument that this is kind of like when you're on the non-ramp view camera, it is like the first couple of rows. But when you're on a ramp view, it's almost the whole crowd, like up the ramp. There is a little bit of a fading effect and stuff like that. And yeah, but like what John said, the details of the ring, the whole arena as a whole is just, it's great. The presentation is very nice.
The ramp, the pyro, so cool.
All great. The HUD itself, not very distracting.
What you think
It's simple, but not in a bad way. I think maybe the power balls could have been a little smaller.
That's what I was just gonna say.
There isn't a opacity to them where it's not completely distracting, but they want to make sure that that you have them and that they are an important aspect of the game. But overall,
can't really complain.
Yeah, presentation's great. Can't complain that much.
I really liked when you start the match and it goes to the entrance stage and like the lighting effects. Very cool, very smooth. For a PS2 game, it's almost on like PS3 levels.
Yeah, and considering that I'm trying to think, like, newer games in some aspects may not even be that detailed. Like it feels like there's so many unique lighting effects where nowadays there's, while presentation may be higher quality in the sense of, the textures and the quality of the like the smoothness of the arenas, there may not be as many lighting effects as what you see here. Like this, just like every entrance felt very unique.
Yeah, very, very cool. Good music, everything. Great presentation. I'm not going to do a big Did You Know this week because we pretty much touched on all the cool features of the combinations and everything. But King of Colosseum Green is on eBay for $17 used, so still a pretty decent price. $25 with red if you get both. And there's a $65 combo with King of Colosseum 2 and red. So that's not bad if you're a collector and want all three. Then
that's not a bad price at all.
But let's talk about some ratings and reviews here. Some R&R. Sit back and relax. We got the game FAQ user ratings, 4 out of 5 stars, which is considered great, 3 out of 5 difficulty, which is just right, and the length of hours played is 3.5 out of 5, which is a total of 45 hours played on the reg. I think I could get behind all these ratings here. Maybe the difficulty I would put a little half tick more, just because there's a big learning curve.
Yeah, I think that may be the only part that I don't know. It's not incredibly difficult to pick up. There's just like what you would think, like grapples were kind of difficult to figure out in the beginning. But like general strikes, running, moving around, how to taunt, doing your finishers, that all you could just kind of button mash and figure it out along the way.
I think if we had more time, which I'm sure we will, and we play this game, we'll get it pretty easily and we'll just know what we're doing.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, John, it is time to get into our ratings because it is time to rate the game.
The game!
All right, Johnny Clash. We talked before we started recording about what we thought about King of Colosseum Red. Does it stand true for King of Colosseum Green? Will you give it a play it forever? Woo! Or future endeavor?
You're fired!
I think I'm going to stick with a play it forever here.
Woo!
I think it's pretty cool. Now, I am wondering, since we're playing this in 2024 on an emulator, are we able to do the combination if we have the save data in the same folder?
I am willing to bet that you probably could, because how the save file works for the emulators is that it kind of mimics the memory card.
I think we're going to have to try that.
I'm gonna have to give it a try. I think I may even have the save data from when we played Red still. So
I think we should give it a go, but it's a play it forever. It's a really cool game, cool visuals. It's nice to see the roster. It's nice to go back and be like, oh, look, Samoa Joe and Vader and Scorpio and Mike Modest and all that. It's just a nice game, and there's a lot to do in it. It's just like taking a Fire Pro and putting it in modern or more modern wrestling style for a video game. I guess that's how I'll say it.
yeah, I like that. That's a good way of putting it.
Now, what about you?
I am right there with you. It is a big ol' play it forever. Woo! It is it's just a game that holds up well. It's fun to play. Presentation is great. Like we said in the beginning of the episode, there are certain aspects that age very well, and there are certain aspects that you're like, okay, kind of shows its age. But overall presentation, play style, challenge, it's a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and big ol' double piff on the podcast.
All right. Let us know what you think about King of Colosseum Green. Let us know what you think about King of Colosseum Red also.
Yeah.
What about both of them? Did you combine them? Do you remember when they came out? What was it like? Let us know. But are you ready to enter this week's Soft Lock?
Let's go. All right, the Soft Lock is a weekly segment where one of our mega marks on Patreon asks us a question, gives us a topic to debate. It's the question of the week with a fancy name. This week, it comes from the king, the reigning defending king of Gamebury, Mr. Sean Tecker. Tecker would like to know, with the release of Suicide Squad, who would be your pick of a video game Suicide Squad for video game villains? You can pick across any system and franchise. We each get 5 picks.
Now I already did mine.
Yeah, okay, so let me open up Notepad here.
Do you want me to explain while you're getting yours going?
Yeah.
So I was thinking first, like, oh, the bad guy from Gears of War, and then I was like, what would I actually put in here? So I went a little more like classic villains. I want the leader to be Giovanni from Pokemon.
Oh.
I want him to be the mastermind behind it all. Bowser's going to be the heavy. Wario's going to be kind of like the comic relief. But then I also want Robotnik from Sonic as like kind of, I guess, I don't know, the little mastermind behind all the gadgets and stuff. But then Dr. Wily from Mega Man.
Okay.
That's my 5.
All right. So I'm going to go with...
John Cena as Peacemaker.
No. I'm going to go with Handsome Jack from Borderlands.
Okay.
I need Ocelot from Metal Gear Solid, but I don't know which version of Ocelot I want. So we're going to say just Ocelot from Metal Gear Solid. Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII. Ooh. Cortex from Spyro.
Ooh. I'm writing all these down for you.
And what? I need one more.
One more.
I feel like you got to have Bowser. Ooh, either Bowser or Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong from like original, like you're playing as Mario trying to save
the movie. He was before his change of heart.
Yeah, we'll go Bowser.
Bowser, okay. We both got Bowser. That's our only one.
I feel like Bowser's the class. Like if you think of like notorious, like infamous video game bad guys, like I would say most people would think Bowser.
I like it. I think we got a good both got a good Suicide Squad on our hands here.
That's also an interesting question. Let us know on social media who you would pick as your 5 villains to make your own Suicide Squad. But also, what do you think is the most iconic video game villain? Like, if you were to ask random people out on the street what their iconic or the first video game villain that they think of, who's that first bad guy that comes to mind?
Yeah.
Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat's probably another good one. Or Goro.
I feel like it's got to be Bowser. He's just right up there.
Yeah.
But pretty cool question. All right. Are you ready to hear what we are playing next week before I go bug Dylan about the Packers losing?
I cannot wait.
We are playing another mobile game here. WWE Undefeated came out in 2020. It's a little bit more of a recent fighting game from WWE. I remember playing it mobile, and we're going to bring it to you here on the Game Marks podcast.
All right. I'm very excited about that. Well, I don't want to keep you any longer, John. I know that you got to go bother Dylan. That's a very important thing. Usually that's my job. But youtube.com/Game Marks podcast for all of our weekly playthrough videos and a whole lot more. GameMarksPod.com/shop for all of our exclusive merchandise. ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod for all of our shirts. Patreon.com/GameMarksPod for this show. Early ad-free access to show notes and starting soon, a whole lot more. Maybe even from multiple podcasts, but we'll talk about that a little on down the road. At GameMarksPod on all forms of social media. And please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell. That was a good one. And leave a 5-star rating and a review for this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you choose to listen to your podcast. It really does help out the show. And if you have a product or service that you would like to advertise on this podcast, you can reach out to us at GameMarksPod@gmail.com. Johnny Clash, another game, another week, another episode. Whenever you are ready, sir, do that thing.
Game over. Marks.
Game Marks podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks podcast every single Monday.